Hi there, I'm for Patrick, and I'll be exposing you on how to gain 10x leverage in your world by harnessing all the potentials in your mind. Safe to call me a mind coach. I'm passionate about mind mastery, and in the space of 3 years, I've been able to establish two multi-million Naira generating businesses by the application of this principle. I've also helped brands ranging from health, finance, and marketing in gaining 10x profits in their niche. So congratulations to you from wherever you may be watching across the world, and congratulations to you that are live here with me in the studio. Brace up, put on your seatbelt, for you're about to say goodbye to everything that smells broke and says poverty. Welcome to Mind Mastery Masterclass 1.0. So whatever I say in this class, please guys don't call me a doctor, right? Because definitely I'll be giving you medications to solve your mind issues. It is certain. There are two phrases that I always tell people to consider before starting anything. Like, check your heart and define what you have inside your heart before you start anything. Have you ever heard of the phrase fear of failure and the desire to succeed? Like, the difference between us who have not started and those that have started doing something in life, maybe along a business path, can be defined into these two phrases. What they have inside of their heart is what we call the desire to succeed. And that desire to succeed is a heart that has gotten rid of every form of uncertainty. Notice that if you have the fear of failure, this is anxiety, right? This is uncertainty. When you want to start something new, you know that kind of feeling you have inside. How will I start? Which shop, right? How much money? Which location? What is my marketing strategy? So there's so much rush coming into your mind, and at the end of the day, you look at yourself and say, can I really start this thing? This thing I'm even saying, can I start it? Do I have what it takes to start it? That's the uncertainty, that's the anxiety I'm talking about. But the difference now between those guys that are succeeding is that what they have in their inside is the desire to succeed. A heart that desires to succeed looks beyond the uncertainty, right? So you know you need water by all means, right, to bathe. Let's say you have no water in your location and you need water to bathe to go to school, right? You don't look at the kind of clothes you are wearing. Your aim is to go and get the water. So you know where the water is, right? Especially when you don't have taps, or you went to a school where you don't have taps. You know where the water is. You know where the well is. You do what it takes, right? By standing up, putting on the clothes, right, and going to get water so that you can prepare for school, right? This can be likened to the heart that has the desire to succeed. If you want to succeed, you must get rid of that fear of failure and embrace what? The desire to succeed. Instead of you thinking about the uncertainties that may pop up when you want to start something new, start thinking about the successes that you can enjoy when you start that thing. Like, start thinking about the profit you will make. I know many a times people say, oh, it's not about profit, business is about this. Yes. But what we want to do is get you started. In teaching someone how to drive, many a times all the rules are not explained to the person. The person always have that sense of, I just want to drive, and the instructor aim is to get you to start driving. So, but notice when you start driving, like for me, when I started driving, I discovered that there were so many things that they did not tell me about in the driving school. So I had to discover those things on my own. Right? In hitting those new discoveries, I did not stop driving. I just said, no, I'm not going to drive again. The good thing is that I've already started. So the aim of this intro is that think about getting started. And if you're thinking about getting started, you need to inject in you, right, what we call the desire to succeed. This is contagious, right? When you read about people that have succeeded, when you listen to people that have succeeded, you listen to their stories, adopt the desire to succeed and not the fear of failure. Because when you listen to these stories, many a times you begin to think, this thing that this guy said happened to him. Let's imagine, he tried as you and tried for 99 times, and on the 100th time he got light. So you begin to think, is this how I'm going to be failing for 99 times? So think about succeeding. That's what I'm trying to say. Think about succeeding. Get rid of that mind of failure and inject in your inside the desire to succeed. This is very important in getting started. If you are not starting, start thinking on how to ignite in your inside the desire to succeed. This is very, very, very important. Because just like I said again, the difference between you not starting and someone who has started is the posture of their heart, the posture of their mind, right? Inside the heart of someone who has already started is that desire to succeed. I don't want to fail, I just want to succeed. Then inside the mind of the one who is still wishing and wishing is the if, is the can. Can I? If I can. If I have this, if I have that. So start thinking on how you can succeed and stop thinking of how you're going to fail. Start thinking on how you will succeed and stop thinking or wasting your time thinking on failures. Notice that when we were born, nobody told us that we're going to crawl. Nobody told us we're going to walk. Nobody told us that we're going to run. But there comes a time in our life. I could remember back then in 2023, December of 2023, my elder sister just put birth to like a bouncing baby girl. We were so excited. But I get home right now and I see her running. I'm like, when did they give birth to you? When did they give birth to you? Right? But she's running. I want us to create images in our mind when I say these things. Someday you would have to crawl. Someday you have to crawl. As a child, you have to crawl. Are they going to bring out the drawing board and say, this is how you are going to crawl? Stage 1 to a day, something old baby, maybe a 6-month-old baby. And you bring out a board and a marker and you start saying, this is how you need to crawl. But the reality remains that that child would crawl. Isn't that right? That child would crawl. And sooner or later, you're going to see that child who was crawling, walking. And after that, what happens? You're going to see that same child, which you carried in your arms, running the next minute. So what I'm saying is that whether you like it or not, as a person, someday you're going to have to crawl. Someday you would have to walk. And my God, some other days you would have to run very fast. Notice the newborn baby does not have all these things figured out, right? And comes out from the womb, then she starts thinking like my niece, mom, tell me how I'm going to crawl. She can't even talk. But what is bound to happen in her life is that she will definitely crawl, right? She will definitely walk and she will definitely run, just like her mates, just like people. So if you are interested in that path that you've decided to embark on, right, start. Don't focus on the limitations. Notice how fast you are going to run. Notice how fast that child is going to walk. It's all dependent on their mind, right? How their mind tells them that they can run. How their mind tells them. Notice in walking, when they come across an obstacle, the instant pause and they try to figure it out. They try to figure it out. How do I get over this obstacle? Just like my house with a lot of staircase, and my niece is trying to climb, and she's like, mommy, how am I going to get you up here? But she's already in the process of climbing the staircase, right? And yet goes the mom, you can do it, keep coming. So one step at a time. Why am I telling us this story? Being born, right, is likened unto starting. When a child is born, that child does not have everything figured out. But what we know about that child is that child is going to do what? It's going to crawl, it's going to run, it's going to walk, and it's going to talk, right? So when you start something, when you ignite that idea in your heart by starting, someday you're going to have to interact with people. You're going to have to sell your ideas to people. You're going to have to speak to investors. I've just started. I don't have all these things figured out. But notice what I was trying to say. In the face of obstacle, when the child meets an obstacle, guys, right? What does the mom say? What does the parent say? Do they say, no, go and sit down, you're not going to crawl past this obstacle? What did they get? Encouragement. So what that encouragement is to the child is that you are strengthening his heart, not his leg, right? So the child is not having any fear of that, because mommy has told me to come, right? So I have to come and meet mommy. No fear or whatsoever. So, hey baby, come, mommy is here, mommy is here, mommy is here, mommy is here. What that means to the child is that there is no longer obstacle, right? Because mommy is there. So when you start, right, don't focus on the obstacles, because sooner or later you're going to meet those obstacles, and guess what? You're going to overcome them. Flashback. Remember what I said when starting? I said the desire to succeed is contagious, right? The fear of failure is also contagious by listening to people. So in grooming your mind, the major ingredients needed, right, is the words. The words. The words. And I want you to quote me anywhere. The words you receive in your inside is vital in igniting that desire in you to succeed, or igniting that anxiety to fail. The words. We can trace your fear of failure to a word. Maybe something you read, maybe something you envisioned in your heart. We can always trace it to a word. W-O-R-D. And we can also trace your desire to succeed to a word. Notice the analogy of a growing child. The major factor, right, needed for the child to overcome the fears in his heart were what? The words of encouragement. When, if you're a pet lover, you understand the term, we call it encouragement, right? Whereby you reward your dog when they perform a particular task. See, those are words. Words received in your heart can either frame you or destroy you. I want us to think about this. The words, you are a product of the words you've received. You are a product of the words you receive. So we frame our mind and we inject in us desire to succeed by the words we receive in our inside. So this could be either spoken words. That means if it's spoken, you have to listen, you have to hear. Follow me, guys. I'm going to share something very important. If it's spoken words, you have to listen, you have to hear. If it's written words, then you have to read. Remember, words can be communicated via various means. By speaking, what I'm doing now, I'm speaking, right? Via books, written. So you have to read, you have to pay rapt attention, you have to take notes, right? Written. Some others say you communicate words via what? Act, via music. So words are inscribed, or messages are passed, informations are passed in form of what? Music. In form of what? Act. Also, the word. W-O-R-D. This does not sound as though I'm preaching. I'm not preaching. I'm actually telling you what life works on. You are the product of the words you receive, either by your parents, either by your mentor, either by your discipler. Some people have none of this presence in their life. They don't have a mentor, they don't have a teacher, they don't have anybody, right? It's quite easy for those of us that have the presence of these people in our life. Why do I say so? Because of the nature of words that they are going to be injecting in our inside. So it is now easier for us that have these kind of people to contact the desire to succeed. Why for the Lone Ranger, without having the presence of all these people in their life, will struggle, right? Will have a longer route to follow in what? In getting or in contacting that heart that is filled with the desire to succeed. Then it doesn't just stop there. When you receive this word, you've got to process them. This is one vital tool I apply in any seminars or whenever I receive a word. Notice I'm using the word receiving, because when words are spoken, they are meant to be received. A lot of persons are engaged in so much listening. You're always listening, always reading books, but never receiving. Words ought to be received and processed where? In your mind. When you receive words, when somebody say, oh word, you know, Joshua, boy, you can do this, I see you doing this, I see that you're capable of doing this, right? If those words are not received, do you know you will never ever do that? You know you will never do that particular thing which that person said you can do, right? If those words are not received, Joshua, do you know you can never become what that person said you would be? So how then do you receive and process words? I call it meditation. You can call it afterthought. I remember when I started my first business then. I was having a conversation with my sister, and she goes ahead and say, "Oh, Pat, do you know what? I've got this friend. He sells vintage clothes, vintage styles, and all of that. Do you know what we can?" And she says to me, "Pat, do you want to start a business?" And I was like, "I've never thought about it." So this is me back home right now, like that evening, and I'm thinking, I don't have a business, but I have resources to start. I've never sold something in my life, but somebody have told me that I can sell something. Notice it started from a conversation. Words were transferred, words were spoken, right? The meditation now comes via an afterthought. That means I had to process that conversation I earlier had with my sister. So I'm like, yes, I can do it. I have the resources. Then I call her and say, "Oh, Favor, do you know what? Connect me, right? Connect me to your guy. Let him get me started and all of that." So here I go buying vintage styles. The next minute from buying, the next minute I'm selling. How did it all start? From a what? From a conversation, then to an afterthought. I had to go back to process what? Those words that she spoke to me, and I had to put myself, right? I have to imagine myself actually doing all those things that she said that was possible. What did she say that was possible? She said, "Pat, you can sell like my friend and make profit." And what did she say was possible again? She told me the exact amount I was going to buy and how much I was going to be selling. So back to meditation. When words are received, you ought to process them. Words are like food, the food you eat. When you take in good food, if it's not processed, you would never get all the nutrients needed for your body to survive. Why do you have kwashiorkor? Why do you have what? Name it. Lack of protein. Words ought to be received. The difference between you being where you ought to be and where you are now is that you've never processed all the words you've been receiving. You've read 1,000 books. People boast in the numbers of the books they've read. I've read 1,000 books. This year my target is to read 50 books. But have you sat down? This is the question. This always freaks my mind. Have you ever sat down to process everything you read? Meditation helps you to process words that are needed for relevant areas of your life. A book is wholesome, right? You pick it and you read. But by the time you carefully sit down chapter by chapter to process everything that you've read, you begin to see practical steps that are relevant to certain areas of your life. But if you don't go back in processing those words, because we read and we add it to our book cabinet, so book 1, book 2, book 3, without going back to process the words. At the end of the day, we'll find out we've read a lot of books, but certain areas of your life are not improving. This is the major cause. Be sold out to meditation. I want to study an article of the top guys in Silicon Valley spending time at a particular Asian mountain every year to do what? To meditate. Not for another business meeting, not for another conference, but rather to meditate and bet new ideas. In the place of meditations, right, you are bound to get ideas. If you can just sit down for a minute and process those words here, you are bound to get an idea. Notice that why your heart haven't been able to comprehend where you are in life is because you lack meditation. Notice again why you are unable to see beyond where you are now. Because many times we say, look beyond where you are now. Look beyond your present financial issues. Look beyond your present your relationship issues. Look beyond, look past you, look past where you are now, look into the future. Why many of us are unable to do that is because what? We lack that art of meditation. So be sold out meditation.